Hi again, guys. It's Randy, and I'm back with you for another video today. I hope you're all well and out there living your best lives as usual. If you're new to the channel, I want to say welcome. And today I've got something a little special for you. It's an interview I did on Zoom with the online poetry group, Poetry and Talk, back in 2020. It was a lot of fun for me to do, and in it, you'll learn a little bit more about me and about my writing process and about my journey that led me to becoming a poet. So I hope that you'll enjoy this one and have as much fun as I did doing it. And as always, if you like the video, please smash the like button and subscribe to my channel and share. And I will see you again next time, guys. Thanks and be well and love each other. Talk to you next time. Bye.
Hi everyone, welcome to Poetry and Talk. Poetry and Talk is a new online interviewing platform for poets to share their poetry, background, and inspiration. We're so grateful that you've tuned to us today. We have a new poet to introduce to you. We just want to thank all the poets that have come on board with us for poet interviews. We hope you've had a moment to check out some of the videos on social media on our Facebook page by the same name, Poetry and Talk. And we're looking forward to the forthcoming poet interviews. If you are a poet and you haven't connected with us and you're interested in a poet interview, you can reach us at poetryandtalk@gmail.com and we'll get back to you with scheduling and information. I'm Leslie Sue, the host for Poetry and Talk. Thank you again, everyone, for watching. I'd like to welcome our guest poet for today. His name is Randy Duckworth. Hi, Randy. How are you?
Hi, I'm wonderful. Thank you so much for having me today.
Thank you for being with us. We appreciate it. So we like to start Poetry and Talk with the poet giving us a brief introduction to a poem and then read it to us. And that helps set the tone and give us some insight into their poetic style. So Randy?
Okay, great. Well, the poem that I've selected to read today is actually an older one that I wrote quite a few years ago. And it's sort of just a statement about how we go through our ups and downs in life and how, we weather the things that come at us sometimes, and how we deal with the joys and sorrows that we experience. So the poem, actually, it comes from my second book called Winter in Eden, which is right there. And the poem is called A Lifetime of Days. Because when I was considering this subject, I really thought about what is a lifetime. A lifetime is a series of days in which, we go through all of this stuff, the ups, the downs, the good, the bad. And so that's kind of what this poem is about. And it goes like this. A lifetime of days finding your way. A lifetime of days going astray. A lifetime of days shining in joy. A lifetime of days mired in pain. A lifetime of days smiling in sunshine. A lifetime of days weeping in rain. A lifetime of days in the shadow of sorrow. A lifetime of days to seek a better tomorrow. A lifetime of days to live and love. A lifetime of days to laugh and play. A lifetime of days from dawn to twilight. From the brightness of morning to the dark black of night. A lifetime of days draws softly to a close, leaving you to rest in peaceful repose.
Wow, that's really deep, Randy. Very, very beautiful. I love that. The whole kind of concept of looking at a lifetime as a series of days, and then you're kind of going into what is pretty typical to experience you know, from moment to moment, season to season, you know, year after year. Talk to us a little bit more about this. It almost sounds like it's like a book within a poem, because we're kind of experiencing all these different things that, you know, most of us typically experience. So share with us a little more, please.
Okay, well, most of my work tends to be like that. Most of my work is very much on the spiritual side, and it was never anything that was planned. It was just, letting whatever was in there come out. And so most of my work has to do with the things that we experience in life, and not only with that, but also with many like spiritual topics like angels and the afterlife and those sorts of things. Because when it comes right down to it, most of our experiences are pretty much the same. We as human beings go through many of the same things, more than we sometimes realize, So even when you feel alone, or you feel like you're the only one experiencing this, or you're the only one having to deal with this, you're not. We're all pretty much going through the same things. We're all learning the same lessons, And so, that's what I really try to capture in my work, because, it's just through my work, I tell my story first and foremost. It's about my experiences and the things I go through and the things I feel and the things that I see others around me experience. And, and that's my goal in all the work I do, is to show people that my experience is not much different than theirs. Of course we do take some detours and we have some differences, but we share a lot more common experiences than we think sometimes.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. See, poetry is kind of like a unifying media to share, and yet coming from your own personal perspective and your own personal experiences. But it feels like it has that unifying bond, as collectively, as all of us.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and that's really what I work at showing, and as far as, ideas coming to me, they come from every place, every place. So that's just one example of a topic that I write about, is those kind of things. However, I also write about many other topics, such as like the beauty of nature, or being disabled. I have cerebral palsy, so that's part of my experience. And that's another topic that I write about, is how sometimes being disabled can cause you to be seen as different by some people, and how I deal with that. And, like I've also written poems that were tributes to friends or loved ones that I've lost over the years, my way, it's sort of my way of remembering them. I've had several pieces that I've been asked to read at family funerals and those kind of things. And so it's a wide variety of topics, because, my ideas really can come from anywhere. They can come from, a conversation that I have with somebody, or somebody else's conversation that I overhear, or, something that I read or hear. I've also gotten many ideas that were inspired by the lyrics to songs, because I'm a huge music fan. And sometimes it's not even a whole line of the lyric. It might be just a very short phrase, or something that catches my ear within the lyrics as I'm listening, so they come from everywhere.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And yeah.
So when these inspiration hits, like you said, you're having a conversation with someone, or you're listening to some music, or you're out in nature, or it has something reflective to do with you, or something that you observe. Talk to us about your process. So you get this idea of like, okay, that would make a great poem, and then talk to us about the process. Is that how it works for you? Is it something like that? Is it something different? So we can get a little bit more into some insight into how you operate when you're actually in that creative zone, that creative process of writing.
Mhm. Well, for me, I think it starts with a title. You know, like I was saying before, I hear a phrase or a group of words, and if I hear something that catches my ear, I have a notebook where I'll keep a list of these phrases, and that I will eventually use as titles. And then, you know, I will start thinking about that phrase, or, you know, what does it mean? What is it expressing? What, you know, and I sort of build my own experience into whatever whatever that makes me see, you know. And sometimes I'm not even sure, you know, what's really going to come out, because there have been a whole lot of times when I will sit down with one idea in mind, and I will wind up being led in a completely different direction that I didn't even see coming, you know. So because whatever it is, you know, sometimes you can't be the one to guide that. You have to let it guide you.
Mm-hmm.
You know, because, you know, whatever, you know, sometimes we're not always aware of what's down inside of us, or we're not always at least fully aware of what's down inside of us. And regardless of what you sit down to do, whatever you have inside of you is going to come out on that page, you know. So it, you know, it might end up being the way that you saw it or the way that you heard it, and it may not, you know. It might be something that you never imagined would even come out of you, you know. So it's always a surprise for me in that way.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah.
So when that guidance comes to you, and let's say it's a situation where it takes a couple twists and turns, you had an idea, and then as you start to write, you see, wow, this is taking off a whole new trajectory, so to speak. So,
Right.
so once that starts to develop, you just kind of go with that, and you stay with it until it's completed. And then once that's completed, you just kind of step back and you look at, are you like amazed? Are you like, wow, we started with this, and then it kind of ended up to be that. What is your insight into that? Can you talk to us a little bit about that?
Oh yeah, I'm always amazed. I'm always amazed, um, because sometimes, you know, sometimes I understand it and sometimes I don't. Sometimes it is much a mystery to me as it is to anyone else. You know, I mean, I've always told people from the time that I began writing poetry, because I've always written in some form or another. It hasn't always been poetry. I've written songs and stories, but I've always written in some form or another. And when I began to write poetry, I always used to tell people that it really doesn't come from me. It comes through me. You know, it's coming from somewhere higher. Absolutely. There's no doubt in my mind of that. And so it doesn't come from me, it comes through me.
And do you have any ways that you kind of tap into that, in generally speaking, specifically speaking? And what about your environment where you write your poetry? I always like to ask the guest poets, your environment, is that important to you? Do you have certain things around you? Do you like a certain environment that helps kind of set the tone to kind of open you up? Or is that completely not a factor for you?
Well, I can write pretty much in any sort of environment, although I do prefer an environment that puts me at peace, or something that, which is like being out in nature, or um, being where there's just something beautiful that I really, really enjoy, um, you know, or having like just a place where I'm really comfortable and pardon me, that I don't feel any tension or have anything to worry about. And then I just sort of, close my eyes and ask for inspiration and open myself to whatever comes.
Mm-hmm.
You know?
You mentioned that you've written song lyrics, you've done other types of writing, and you've done poetry. Did all of this surface at once, or did they go in a specific order? Could you share that with us?
Oh no, it wasn't really in a specific order. From the time I was pretty young, I've always kept a journal that I've written in, just personal things and little silly things that nobody would ever probably care about reading, but I've always written, and that grew into, from there it grew into writing stories and mostly like shorter pieces of fiction. And then from there, I started with the songs because I come from a musical family. Everyone on my father's side of the family either sang or played an instrument, so I was constantly around music. And in fact, the beginning of my journey as a poet came out of that, because when I began writing poetry, I began it with the intention of creating song lyrics. And so, like, in my mind, as far as I was concerned, that's what I was trying to do. And somehow the writing that was coming out, while it was very good, didn't seem to fit the types of songs that I was attempting to write. So, but I saved them because I felt like they were really good pieces of writing. And but I didn't really know what to do with them, so I just had this pile of stuff that was like sitting in a drawer for years and years. And one day I was going through the drawers in my bedroom, and I found this stack of stuff, and I thought to myself, I really ought to do something with this, because it's good writing, even if it didn't fit what I was writing it for at the time. And I really didn't know what to do until a friend of mine suggested that I do a poetry book. And I have to tell you, that threw me the first time that it was suggested to me, because I never had any idea that it would go there. That was like the furthest thing from my mind. So I just thought, who would ever read this? And but I ended up doing it. And the first book that I wrote was a book called Reflections of Soul. It's this one. And that was written some years ago, around 2003. And the one that I read the selection from earlier, that's my newest one that was just published a few months ago. So, yeah, but so my journey with poetry writing really grew out of that, because really, I think if you study song lyrics and poetry, you'll find that while there are some differences, it's not a very great difference. They have a lot of very similar, because it's about meter, and it's about, keeping rhythm, and, the rhyme and the flow, so while there are some differences, they're like a pretty similar art, like songs are just poetry that's been put to music, so, or at least that's the way I've always seen it.
Mm-hmm. So it sounds like your family, particularly you mentioned your dad and kind of growing up in a musical environment,
Mm-hmm.
that played a really strong influence on you.
Oh yes. I am very passionate about it. I think it developed my creativity, because I've really been passionate about anything that's creative: music, writing, acting. When I got into school, I was a big theater nerd. And so it really made me passionate for all things creative. I love to do artistic things. I love to create, whatever medium that might be in, you know? So, you know.
Talk to us, Randy, about your current projects. What's currently going on with you in your poetry now?
Okay, well, I am working on a third book, and the manuscript is pretty much finished. It just needs to be edited. Although right now I have sent it to be registered for copyright protection, so I'm waiting on my registrations to come back, and then I just need to do the editing and so forth, and it'll be ready to go. But the third book, after some of the people who have read my previous work, I'm always getting asked, probably like any writer does, I'm always getting asked, how do you get your ideas? Where do your ideas come from? And so I thought with this book, what I will do is I will choose the pieces that I feel are my personal best, and then I'll tell the stories behind them about how I got the ideas and where they were written and why they were written, and you know. So because I'm constantly getting asked that question, so I thought, what better way to answer that for people than in a book that they can take home and read for themselves, you know. So that's going to be my next project. And beyond that, I still have many more poems to come. You know, I have quite a mountain of stuff. So yeah, so beyond that, we'll just have to see what comes up.
We still have a few more minutes, Randy. Is there any type of advice that you would like to give for other poets that may be listening and watching today?
Well, I would just say that, you know, listen to your own soul, because you always know when you have something to say. You know when there's something in there to say. And when you know that you have something to say, take up your pen and say it. And don't be afraid to be honest. Whether you write about your light or your darkness, you know, write about it honestly and write about it in a very real way. Because I think it's very important to not only to share your joys and your light, but I think it's very important also to be honest about your darkness. It's very important to be vulnerable enough to say, you know, hey, I'm struggling, I'm having a really hard time, I don't know what I'm doing, I'm confused, you know, because we all have those moments. And maybe if you're brave enough to share yours with somebody, then somebody else won't feel so alone, you know. So that's pretty much what I would tell anyone.
Yes. Tell us, Randy, where can we find you on social media? How can we get a hold of your books? Please let us know.
Okay. Well, my books are available on Amazon.com, and you know, because I'm primarily published by Amazon KDP, so they're available through Amazon.com. I also have a page on the Goodread, an author page on the Goodread website, and I also have an author page on Facebook called Author Randy Duckworth. And then you can also contact me through my website, which is called www.duckiesden, that's duckiesden.com.
Thank you so much for a great interview. You have a wonderful body of writing. It sounds so interesting, and we're so grateful that you shared this time with us so we could get to know you as a poet and find out about all these different aspects of your poetry and your other interests. So thank you so much, Randy. We really appreciate it.
Thank you for having me. It was my pleasure. I enjoyed myself. You know, and anytime, you know, I'm happy to come back anytime you'd like to have me.
Absolutely. Maybe when you finish this your third book.
Yes.
Yes. Well, we'd love to have you back on, and we wish you well and success with all your endeavors. Thank you again for being our guest poet. We're all learning and growing together. Thank you everybody for watching today. We'd like to say thank you again to everybody who's been watching and supporting us. Again, you can find us on our Facebook page, Poetry and Talk. Please like and share. Be on the lookout for new poet videos as well. Until the next episode of Poetry and Talk, be well and be blessed. Thanks again, everyone. Thank you, Randy.
Thank you.